happened to his stock? It just went through the roof, didn't it? Because he's doing business with Larry Ellison. So when Google sees a link to your website on this website, on this website, on this website, how does it make you look? Makes you look pretty important. So this is a site called Ahrefs, which is it denotes web stuff, right? It's deep technical kind of jargon. But the point of this site is it shows me how many links there are pointing into any given site. And that's a real big metric that web people use to determine whether the site is popular or not. So if you want to check ever whether your site is growing or becoming more popular, you can just throw your site in here and see if it's growing, see if it's become more popular across the web. Yes, sir?
How about the other way around? How about if there's a lot of links on your website?
Doesn't do anything for you. There's three kinds of links on websites. These are the most powerful ones, the inbound links from other people's sites pointing to you. Then there are outbound links, right? A link to like Home Depot or something. That doesn't really give me any credit. There is a third kind of link called an internal link that might link my first page, like in the content, to like the fourth page somewhere. You do actually get credit for that, and Google knows when somebody clicks that link from your first page to the third and vice versa. So those are okay, but an external link, that can help the user experience. Like if you have really good content on your site and you're linking to somewhere else, that would encourage the user to come back, but Google's not going to give you credit for linking to like, Home Depot or some, massive site. That's more about the user. Yeah.
There is something called natural links, because Google messed up last year. They changed the algorithm.
Yeah. What some people used to do is they would create what are called link farms. They would pay these characters to place your website on all these other sites across the web until they did a bunch of different updates and absolutely wrecked people who did that.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to leave a link to my site on like Fox Sports, even though my company does like web design. You know why? Even though Fox Sports gets 40 million people on a weekend or whatever, it's because the content on that site has absolutely nothing to do with the content, right? Google's that smart. It's going to look at who these people are, who's pushing into you. It's got to be relevant content. So you've got to be a little bit careful with that. One of the greatest ways to drive traffic to your website is to create content on a blog. How many of you guys run a blog? Websites are very staticky, right? They're kind of difficult to change. Sometimes you have to know like PHP code, HTML5, CSS3, all this junk you don't want to get into probably as a small business owner. But a WordPress blog is very simple. It's like Facebook, just point and shoot, incredibly simple. But one of the things that the Google robot is looking for is fresh new content. So if the robot comes back to your blog and it sees that you've got updated content, it's going to revisit, okay? And it will actually help your ranking. Now, the other thing is you want people looking at your blog. And the thing about a blog is it can be very time sensitive, meaning something happens and you get to write about it. That's the cool thing, and that's why people would actually visit. But with a site like WordPress and even some of the other blogging sites, every time you create content, it's going to create its own little address, okay? There's a bunch of different ways that you can get people revisiting your blog. One would be to take your entire email list and then paste in that link in your email and shoot that off to everybody that you've ever met. Hey guys, you want to take a look at this article I just wrote? It's going to save you a ton of money because da-da-da. And every time somebody clicks on that link, that's traffic driven just from email back into your blog, back into your website. But it lets people know that you're current. Now, a few other ways to take that link and to get it out there across the web. Back to the gentleman's question before, how do you push that stuff to Google+? Well, sure, I can go straight in there. Before I jump into that part of it though, how do I know what to write about? How do I know what words to use, right? This is one of the most powerful things you will ever find on the internet. It's called the Google Keyword Planner. How many of you guys have heard of that? It used to be called the Google Keyword Tool. This is like being handed an exam 3 days before you're supposed to take the test. So if I use these 3 words, I wonder if anybody's actually searching for them. This tells you. So I can go in here to the Google Keyword Planner and I can type in Los Gatos real estate. And it will actually show me how many people searched that word in the last 30 days. And in this case, I changed the targeting to inside of Santa Clara County. Yeah?
You can do it easier with Twitter and just go into a hashtag.
You can do it in Twitter as well. If I had another hour, I could get into social as well. There's so many different ways to search keywords. I mean, I can search tweets, you know, I could type in moving to Los Gatos, it would show me everyone in the world who just tweeted that. They might be some good customers if that's what I'm doing. But this is a great way to generate content, because if I already know the outcome, right, that's pretty important. Now, that's not the end of the story here. I might find a keyword that 1 million people searched in the last 30 days. Whoopie-doo, I'm going to use that all over my blog and my website. What do you think the issue might be? Any problems with that?
Everybody else knows
What
that
if there
too.
are 100 billion websites and blogs also using the same keyword? I'll never be found. Okay, so you've got to be careful. There is a button here that I can click that says competition, and this will toggle between high and low. So ideally, what I'm looking for is I want some traffic, but I also want there to be low competition. So if I use those keywords, I drive traffic, I'm not really competing against too many other people. There's a balance. Now, I don't want the traffic to be zero, but what do you guys think would happen to your business if you had an extra 200 people heading to your website each month just because of one correct keyword? That might help you a little bit, right? A 1% gain in traffic might yield an extra 5% in business, who knows? So the Google Keyword Planner is huge. The reason they supply this is they want you to spend money on what's called AdWords. AdWords are those big pink ads that you see at the top of the page on most Google searches, and also there's some links down the right-hand side. So there are suggested bid prices as to how much it would cost you if you were to take out a paid ad on Google. What I'm talking about in this presentation is really for organic search. Paid ads are great also because they can turn on the faucet immediately. The reason organic is important is it builds trust, right? Everyone knows the guy at the top of the page could have just, you know, put a dime in the machine and jumped up there automatically. When someone has a top 3 ranking organically, it builds trust. It means they're legit. All the numbers are in the right direction for the right reasons. There's no easy way around that. Just a bit of sweat equity, as I would say. Yes, sir?
How is that determined? Or something on the page there?
I'm sorry?
Something on the page there will determine if it was organic or not?
You know when I do like a search for anything, there'll be like the guy in the pink box up the top.
Yeah.
Okay, forget that, that's paid. Beneath that, those are the real searches, right? Yeah, you don't want to, when the internet was new, oh, there's the #1 guy on Google. People didn't understand that that was there artificially, you know? Now it's just down to sweat equity. Now another thing you might want to consider, you know, Richard, how on earth do I know what to write about? There's a free tool in Google called Google Alerts. So maybe my business is landscaping. I'm going to fill into Google Alerts and search query landscaping. Whenever anything pops up online in terms of instant news, the information comes to me. Do you think that might make you look a little bit relevant when you're writing about something that just happened? You might want to put your own name in there. You might want to put your company name in case somebody says something good or bad. You can take care of it, you know, one way or another. But with Google information, you've got the feelers out there where the information is coming to you. Anybody think they might use that one? You definitely want to put your own name in there, okay? Now, another great way to generate links on other people's websites is to do some guest blogging, right? Now keep in mind, people typically aren't going to read 50 feet of it, right? They're just not going to do that. So it doesn't matter if you're only maybe writing 10 to 15 lines and a picture, that's also fine. But you just do a Google search for guest blogging in landscaping, and it will give you a list of blogs out there that accept posts from outside. Now, if you write good content, and the person who owns that blog, it goes into like an admin section, so the owner of the blog is going to look it over first. But if they accept that and it sticks, and that content is relevant to your content, when the Google robot scans over, it sees a link to your site, will lead right back from that site into yours. Guest blogging has been kind of beat down a little bit in the last couple of months because some people have abused it. The main thing I would say is just make sure the guest blog you're trying to get stuck on, the content is very relevant and very similar to yours. Some of the other things that I can recommend is be original. You do not want to rip off content from anywhere else. People will know it and you will never be found again. You'll get what's called blacklisted. Now that doesn't count when we're talking about social media because you can syndicate the same content across social media. But if you basically cut and paste something that's found on the cover of the New York Post or New York Times, they're going to know it. So just be really careful. Write your own stuff. That's all I can say. Just be original. Google just did another update recently called Hummingbird. They did 2 more called Penguin and Panda, and they're basically designed to clear out the bad guys. But if you're writing good stuff, good quality content, it's going to get found. Okay, it's going to get found, it's going to get shared, and that's the bottom line. Now, to answer the gentleman's question all the way in the back before, okay, this all kind of makes sense, but I don't have the time in the day to write something, send it to my Facebook, send it to my LinkedIn, send it to my Twitter, and all these other places where I'd never get anything done in a million years. There is a free site called Hootsuite, Hootsuite, and it's a syndicator. So once I sign up to my free Hootsuite account, I can write content on my blog or wherever else, plug it into Hootsuite, and when you set this thing up, you connect it just one time to your Facebook account, your LinkedIn, your G+, your Twitter account, and when you hit go, it pushes that out to all accounts at one time. Yeah?
Why aren't you using OnlyWire for your blog?
I'm sorry?
Why aren't you using OnlyWire?
Only.
OnlyWire for your blog?
Oh, that's not my blog.
No, but why aren't you using to automate? Why aren't you using OnlyWire?
I've always used Hootsuite. My company's always used Hootsuite. They tend to be the largest, but I'm sure there's more than one way to syndicate. Again, these are just free services. There's probably a million companies that do that. These guys tend to be, I think, the best, and also for beginners in particular. If this was maybe a business seminar to high-end IT folks, it might change the nature of the conversation. But this is incredibly easy to sign up to. I would say in about 5 minutes, you guys could fill in your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your Twitter, and then you've got a dashboard ready to put content into and syndicate out. Keep in mind, if you create content on a blog that's got its own address, that would go into the hopper in here, and every time somebody from your Facebook account, your LinkedIn account, your Twitter account clicks on that link, it pushes them, straight back to your blog. Okay. So overall, at the end of the day, you want to be able to look at a report card. All this stuff's great, but if you cannot measure it, how do I know if I'm getting better? Okay. The Ahrefs site shows you if your site's kind of growing across the web popularity. But another thing that you want to do, and another free thing that Google gives you, is called Google Analytics. So as part of Google, you can go to Google Analytics, you get what's called a tracking code that gets pasted into your website, and it will tell you everything. How many people visited, where they came from, how long they stayed. If you know every trick in the book, but you still have a crappy website, people tend to leave very quickly. That attributes to something called bounce rate. Anybody know what bounce rate is? Bounce rate is when somebody enters and leaves within about 30 seconds, and Google will know that. So you might know every trick in the book, but if you're giving them a bad experience, it just doesn't matter. So you want to make sure they're getting a good experience, but Google Analytics will certainly tell you what pages they're staying on, their entry pages, their exit pages. Did they come from Google? Did they come from your blog? It really lets you know the score at the end of the day and helps you make adjustments. Maybe you've had a page no one's looked at in 6 months. Well, gee whiz, maybe it's time to get rid of that page and change the content. So this is valuable. It's another tool. It's kind of like your report card. So at the end of the day, website design, it's really designed to connect that consumer emotionally to your site. The what you do to get there, obviously it involves a fair bit of work, but what I wanted to demonstrate to you guys today was probably 10 or 12 fairly easy things that you guys can do to help make your existing site, a lot better and a lot more manageable. Obviously, this conversation could go on forever and ever and ever. I've only scraped the surface in terms of what matters, but hopefully the information I shared with you guys today was valuable. Did anybody learn a few things today? Anybody's head about to blow up? I hope not.
Yes.
Thank you all very much for your time. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys. If anyone wants to chat with me after the class, feel free. I'm going to have a huge sip of water because I've got this bug that's kind of crawling down my throat here. But again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.